Excellencies, esteemed partners, dear friends, dear young people, I greet you in peace. Saludos de paz. Peace is indeed the noble purpose of the United Nations, and it's the fervent desire of every woman and girl that UNFPA serves in 150 locations around the world. Thank goodness for the forward-looking initiatives of the William H. Gates Senior Institute for Population and Reproductive Health. Thanks to the co-hosts for bringing us together this week, the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health and FP 2030. As you and I look to the future of family planning, we need a time frame. The outlook could span, let's say, 10 years from now, which basically means tomorrow, or we could look all the way to the end of the century. For instance, I'm currently leading the Lancet Commission on 21st Century Threats to Health, and along with Chris Murray of IHME, we are indeed looking to the year 2100, because things like pollution and antimicrobial resistance and climate change and inverted population pyramids, all of these you need decades to be able to say whether there was an effect. So modeling the future through that lens with the Lancet Commission, we've made bold to peek through the magnifying glass and discern just what might happen through the end of the century. And that's why, standing here with you, I have no qualms to make bold about positing what will be the features of family planning that you and I will look to in an intermediate period, let's say 20 to 30 years, okay? And from the outset, let's declare that family planning will be characterized, will be defined by self-agency. It is built upon the bedrock of human rights. And that future that we envision is a future of equality for all. Self-agency, especially important on the part of young people who expect innovation, who are demanding modernization of our field, and who are impatient for safe, for effective, for convenient, for reversible, for affordable methods. And on top of that, the contraceptive offerings should be products that are pleasurable, that have that incorporation of fun. Let's pose a fundamental question. Will we continue the expectation that it's the woman with the womb who should bear the eternal responsibility for planning the shape and the contours of that family of the future? Which brings us to another question. When will men step up? When will the guys step up? When will men be availed of reliable quality commodities that are emblematic of sharing the burden as well as the triumphs of good family planning? Human rights, number one. Number two, in the future, the clamor is for ready access. I hope that this comes with the understanding that the risk proposition of hormonal or barrier methods will come with improved methodologies so that access will be through that self-care, autonomous decision-making by fully empowered users of contraception who need no arbiter, who need no permission from the husband, the significant other, the father, the mother-in-law, or any other figure nominated by patriarchy. No doctor, no nurse. This is family planning without gatekeeper intervention. And of course, it also means that we have to pay attention to those means and methods of monitoring and course correction if and when the effects, if side effects would appear. But bodily autonomy demands just that. And mind you, right now, it's barely half of women who have the power to make their own decisions about their reproductive health and whether or not they will have sex tonight or whether or not they can leave and go to the clinic on their own volition. This must change, and that's something that we can change. We can change it if we continue to stand strong and stand together and uphold and protect and advance the fundamental human right of family planning for everyone. No exceptions, no exclusions. And as we contemplate the future, that future ahead is predicated on how far we've come in the past. Thinking about Bucharest in 1994, and then 20 years later, the important rights-based Cairo International Conference on Population and Development. The ICPD put women and girls squarely at the center of human development. And then we jump to London, to that summit in 2012. And after that, our collaborative efforts have yielded immense, remarkable results. 92 million more women in low and middle income countries are using modern contraception. Since the year 2000, adolescent birth rates declined. Maternal mortality fell by more than a third. And globally, deaths of children under 5 halved. Mothers are safer, babies are healthier, more women and couples can decide freely whether or when and with whom to have children. More girls are staying in school and out of marriage. And unfortunately, as you're well aware, recently such progress has stalled, and in some places it's actually going backwards, and that's why our meeting and our actions coming out of here are so important. The third feature of the future is that family planning will actually support demographic resilience. It's voluntary. It's rights-based family planning that is fundamental to building societies and adapting to shifting population dynamics and realities. Did you know that 2/3 of people now live in countries where birth rates are trending at or below replacement level? Okay? And people are living longer. This is a very good thing as a 70-year-old. Populations are aging, and we're reacting to that. We have to cater to changing population dynamics. However, in response, there are governments that are attempting to reverse universal access to contraception and instead introducing pro-natalist incentives, telling women it's their patriotic duty to bear more babies, and even banning contraception and postpartum services in health facilities. And such directives threaten women's hard-won rights and choices. And furthermore, there's an abundance of evidence that shows that in the absence of childcare and elder care and paid leave and social support, these types of pro-natalist monetary incentives just won't work. Women, in all their sexual diversities, have inherent rights. These aren't contingent on the demographic context. The solutions lie in expanding human rights and not in their contraction. So for the fourth, I want to note that the future of contraception will cater to women in the direst of humanitarian circumstances. Alas, something that we don't always have now. Family planning programs must be able to continue to function during humanitarian emergencies, allowing women to make safer choices for themselves during precarious times. And I consider someone like Cecilia, who UNFPA assists in Mozambique. She's a single mom, she has 2 daughters, and she's faced impossible choices in the aftermath of cyclone in her country, which destroyed her rural home and cut off essential services. And unable to access her family planning services, she's unexpectedly pregnant again, and it's jeopardizing her ability to rebuild, to get back on her feet. And she's worried. She's worried about the future for her girls. And this is just a small example, but it actually tells us that the impact of humanitarian crisis is not gender neutral. As livelihoods collapse, as stress escalates, gender-based violence explodes, and child marriage surges. Cecilia said that she dreads the nightfall. She fears for her girls' safety in the darkness because they sleep on mats outside under a tree. Climate change is bringing its own unique consequences to the reproductive and maternal health outcomes that we want to see, as extreme heat is increasing miscarriages and stillbirths, and food insecurity is endangering maternal and newborn health outcomes. Family planning considerations of the future should be part and parcel of humanitarian resilience and response efforts, right from the start, not as an afterthought. So, my dear colleagues, allow me to say that ours is a time of unprecedented challenges and uncertainty. And should I repeat that? Standing here in Washington, D.C. Rampant opposition is undermining progress on gender equality, and it's compromising the rights and choices of women and girls all around the globe. Within the halls of the United Nations, as you know, it's the Commission on the Status of Women in these weeks, long-standing agreed language on gender, on diversity, on sexual and reproductive health and rights is increasingly coming under attack, and the hostility is organized. It is well funded, it is careless, and it is relentless. Uncertainties about donor investment, and notably the recent abrupt terminations of funding for major global health and humanitarian work, pose a really grave threat to the well-being of millions. And these are people who were already marginalized and being left furthest behind. So to close, despite it all, I am very happy to tell you that my crystal ball reveals that the future of family planning is well resourced. Despite all the turmoil, we will remain focused, we will remain united. The opposition may be rampaging, yet our commitment to upholding women's rights is fierce. Our understanding of community needs is deeper. Our intellectual heft is stronger. Our willingness to defend the rights and choices of people in all their sexual diversities is steadfast. And our commitment to science, to data, to evidence towards good planning means that we will be unconquerable. UNFPA and this community have weathered many a storm before. We will not waver in standing with women and girls and families and communities and with all our partners in the sexual and reproductive health and rights sector. The backsliding in global funding is not just about dollars and cents. It's about a woman who's walked for hours to get to a rural clinic, and then she's turned away because the shelves are bare. It's about a desperate adolescent who is coerced into early marriage because contraception was out of her reach. Long-term sustainable financing for family planning is wise, and it is crucial, and it is life-saving. The UNFPA Supplies Partnership works with many of you. We've pioneered successful approaches through financing innovations, and these are mechanisms like bridge funds and matching funds and country compacts. And what I like about this is the important added benefit of accelerating country-led domestic financing, more dependable, more reliable. So I will applaud the wisdom of low and middle income countries' unprecedented investments to safeguard their family planning supplies and to strengthen the supply systems. And I urge you to work wherever you may be. You have influence in government, in civil society, in academia, in foundations, in financial and private sector institutions, in religious and traditional communities, all very important as we work together to close that financing gap and to end stigma in talking about sex and sexuality, and to turn our dream of well-resourced family planning into reality. So then 30 years later, after Cairo and after Beijing, and with scarcely 5 years to go to the end of the 2030 era, what do I say is the future of family planning? Significant gains. Yes, there are formidable challenges that threaten future progress, and things like pandemics and climate change and conflict and declining donor investment that I've mentioned. We're stepping up to meet these challenges. But it's really, the heart of the matter is really the systematic attacks on women's rights and bodily autonomy. And our response, therefore, must match the scale of the threat, and it calls for more intergenerational partnerships. I put my trust in young people in the next generation who are solving these problems, transcending the geographic and sectoral boundaries of old, and leveraging that diverse expertise, the resources, and the influence. It's estimated that it'll take 60 billion US dollars in new funding annually to end the unmet need for family planning in the 120 priority countries that FP 2030 tracks. There is no better return on investment, as much as $120 per dollar spent. And countless lives are transformed by family planning for the better. The future of family planning is going to be determined by the choices that we here make today. And we should do so together. We should do so unapologetically. We should do so with the fierce urgency that this moment demands. Change starts with me, it starts with you, it starts with us. And it leads to a future where every woman and girl is walking tall, she's exercising her reproductive rights, and she's making her choices with dignity, with information, with security, and with freedom. Our UNFPA vision of the future shows contraceptive technology and research significantly advancing and reaching that ideal of full effectiveness and free access without limitations or boundaries. And countries of the Global South will lead in terms of new innovations and in terms of the financing picture. They will be the ones to streamline access to contraceptive services that they want and need, and to information, into policies that institutionalize and integrate SRHR into essential healthcare. This integration is really important. Every individual, every couple needs to know, regardless of their location or their socioeconomic status or background, where will they go easily to find the type of full range of high quality, affordable contraceptive offerings, and have that seamlessly integrated into maternal health, into their HIV care, into their routine wellness and checkups. In the future, family planning will be visibly recognized and acknowledged and applauded as an accelerator of gender equality, of family wealth building, and of real development for people in their home village, in their home community, in their urban landscape. And after centuries of all too familiar barrier methods, as Julia Bunting says, grandma's contraceptive methods, after 100 years of tried and true hormonal methods, the future is crying out for more innovation. Let's have much more research and development of solutions designed with women, with adolescents, and again, that have much more available for men. And that's a bright future. That's a future that we can all get behind. My very dear friends, it is said that it is only in winter that we know which trees are evergreen. Thank you. Thank you for being that astute and evergreen friend to women, to adolescents, and to families. Thank you so much.